For decades, the port of Mombasa has been the undisputed heart of East African trade. But a new giant is stirring. This is Lamu Port, a multi-billion-dollar gamble designed to redraw the economic map of the entire continent. Lamu is the anchor of the LAPSSET Corridor, a grand vision linking Kenya to the landlocked markets of Ethiopia and South Sudan. But is this ambitious bet paying off? To understand the future, we must look at the pressure on the present. Mombasa is currently the region's primary gateway, but it is bursting at the seams. Container cranes work around the clock to meet demand. Long truck queues and heavy congestion have long signaled the need for a secondary outlet to support the growing regional economy. The strategic logic of Lamu is simple: bypass the bottleneck and open up the vast, underserved northern frontier. For landlocked Ethiopia and South Sudan, this corridor offers a shorter, more efficient path to global shipping lanes. By bringing the port to the northern corridor, Kenya isn't just building a dock, it's building a geopolitical bridge. Today, 3 deepwater berths at Lamu are fully operational, capable of handling the world's largest container vessels. The operational reality is one of rapid growth. In 2024, the port handled roughly 74,000 tons of cargo. Projections for 2025 are even more staggering, with throughput expected to climb to nearly 800,000 tons. However, to keep things in perspective, Mombasa currently handles over 45 million tons annually. While Mombasa remains the established gateway, Lamu is the strategic bet on future capacity and regional integration. The port is just the beginning. The full LAPSSET vision includes a massive network of infrastructure cutting across the country. We are talking about oil pipelines, standard gauge railways, and international airports designed to spark new industrial hubs. This isn't just about moving goods. It's about transforming the economy of northern Kenya from pastoralism to industry. Success depends on regional stability and sustained investment. The stakes for Kenya's economic future could not be higher. If LAPSSET succeeds, Lamu Port will be known as the front door to a new African economic era. And this brings us to the biggest prize: Ethiopia, one of Africa's largest economies, and one of the world's largest landlocked countries by population. For Ethiopia, access to maritime trade is strategically important. Today, Djibouti remains its dominant maritime gateway, but Ethiopia has an obvious reason to be interested in alternatives: diversification. Lamu has already demonstrated that Ethiopian cargo can use the route. A major fertilizer shipment destined for Ethiopia passed through Lamu. That doesn't mean Lamu is replacing Djibouti. It isn't. But it proves something strategically important. The alternative route is possible, and that's where Kenya's bet becomes much harder. Because opening a route is one thing, convincing businesses to use it at scale is another. A port can be modern, it can be deep, it can handle large vessels, but if cargo leaving the port becomes too expensive, the entire proposition breaks down. Every link matters: road quality, rail availability, warehousing, border procedures, customs, security, transit times, and ultimately, cost per ton. Kenya has already developed important sections of the Northern Road network, but the full multimodal LAPSSET corridor remains a much larger challenge, and this creates the central risk of the entire project. The port could be ready before the hinterland is. Demand has to follow. And Lamu isn't entering an empty market. It is entering one of the most competitive trade environments in Africa. Mombasa already has decades of logistics infrastructure. Dar es Salaam serves a major hinterland, and Djibouti sits at the center of Ethiopia's established trade system. So Kenya's challenge isn't simply to build another port. It has to persuade cargo owners that this route is better. Lamu doesn't necessarily have to defeat Mombasa. It needs to create additional capacity, additional routes, and additional strategic options. But every strategic bet has a cost, and Lamu isn't an empty coastline. It is a historic cultural landscape. It has fishing communities, tourism, mangroves, and an economy closely connected to the marine environment. So the success of Lamu cannot be measured only by cargo tons. It also has to be measured by what happens to the communities. Jobs matter. Local businesses matter. Environmental protection matters. And the challenge is finding a way to expand trade without destroying the ecosystem, because a successful corridor that damages its surrounding economy can create a very different kind of failure. So what would prove that Kenya's bet is working? Not another speech, not another groundbreaking ceremony, and not another rendering of what Lamu might look like. The evidence will be cargo, regular shipping services, reliable roads, growing logistics businesses, more regional trade, and sustained use by countries beyond Kenya. And there are 3 possible futures. Scenario 1. Breakout. Lamu becomes a major alternative gateway. Ethiopian and South Sudanese trade increases. LAPSSET expands, and northern Kenya becomes an important logistics zone. Lamu becomes a trade hub. Scenario 2. Partial success. Lamu grows, but remains a secondary regional port. Useful, strategic, yet far smaller than the original mega-project vision. Lamu becomes a secondary gateway. Scenario 3. Underperformance. Infrastructure continues expanding faster than demand. Cargo remains insufficient, and Lamu becomes a strategically important asset that never reaches its original commercial potential. The bet fails to scale. So, is Kenya's bet working? The honest answer is, it's too early to know. Lamu is no longer simply an empty infrastructure project. Cargo is moving. Ships are calling. Ethiopian cargo has already passed through the port, and Kenya is actively trying to position Lamu as a regional logistics and transshipment hub. But the bigger vision remains unfinished, and that distinction matters. Because Kenya isn't really betting on 3 berths. It's betting on what those 3 berths could eventually unlock. A new northern trade corridor, a second gateway to the Indian Ocean, greater access to Ethiopia, potential access towards South Sudan, and a different geography for East African commerce. And that is why Lamu matters, not because it has already become Africa's next megaport. It hasn't. And not because Mombasa is about to disappear. It isn't. Lamu matters because Kenya is trying to build something different, an alternative route into the northern half of East Africa. If Kenya succeeds, Lamu could do more than handle cargo. It could change which routes businesses choose, which countries gain leverage, where logistics investment flows, and ultimately, how East Africa connects to the world. But infrastructure can only take you so far. The final decision will be made by the market, by the companies that move cargo, by the countries that choose their trade routes, and by whether the economic activity Kenya is betting on actually arrives. Because Kenya isn't simply building another port, it's betting on a different map of East Africa. And the question now is, will that bet pay off?